Hi guys, let's talk about uh, the one of the most essential components that prepares your body for the load, for the activity that you're working towards. So that's the warm up, and uh, and warm up or pre-movement preparation or pre-practice preparation, pre-sport preparation is a general physical preparation which allows you to extract the max out of your training. Okay, we don't want during our training, because during our training our hips are bothering, or lower back is bothering, or knees are hurting, or ankles are tight, or maybe neck is tight, or something is back is rounding. We don't want all that. So we want to extract the max out of our training, so that wherever we want to reach, training is every day of training is one block, one achievement, and we have to give the max that we can during that day to be where we want to right in the future. So warm up ensures a proper warm up done in a synergistic manner, in a pattern, ensures that you give your all for whatever you're training for. So this is a 6-phase warm up. You start from 1 till 6. You complete the entire sequence, and it generally should not take more than 10 minutes, even for beginners who are starting out with this sequence. And gradually, as you go along, you are going to reduce the total time further to, let's say, 9 minutes, 6 minutes, or even 5 minutes. So the first step is self myofascial release or self massage. So I've mentioned in many of my other videos also, and have posted regarding tennis ball roll, regarding foam rolling, or medicine ball rolling, or trigger point therapy, even with weights or kettlebells. So this is generally, you're loosening the muscle. So you're trying to, you don't get directly into a stretch. If you're stretching cold muscle, and if you stretch too far, it could lead to damage, further damage to that muscle tissue. So you with the SMR or self myofascial release, you are actually softening that tightness a bit before you lengthen it. Okay, so this is essentially softening, or it's a massage. Then we move to, then you lengthen it with a stretch. So let's say my hips are very tight before the lower body day, so I roll my hips with a tennis ball, and once that is done, I can stretch my hips now, rather than going the other way around, where I directly go into a stretch and then try and release it with the medicine ball. Then if you've already stretched it cold, then there's no point in doing massaging that particular thing. So this sequence allows you to further get better stretch or better release of that muscle, so that now it can work. Then you move into activating. So not necessary that you're going to activate the same muscle. Some muscles don't need activation, some muscles do need a lot of activation before going into any of the fundamental movements or any of the primary movements that you are trying to perform in your workout. So let's say if your primary movement is the squat, then probably you need activation of the hips, activation of even the hip flexors, activation of the upper back, the lats. So that is where activation will help. It's solely governed by what your primary movement or your entire workout is about. Okay, so if it's a bench press movement or it's an upper body in general, so you need activation of the upper back, you need activation of the lats, of the core, So this is where activation will help. So if you see, gradually you're preparing to load the body, right? The next one is, again, so it's a part of activation. We activate the sleeping muscles, and then we activate the center, which is the core. So you perform, let's say, 2 sets of an RKC plank, 2 sets of bird dogs, Swiss ball plank, anything, a low stress activity which activates the core. Primarily, it should not be a crunch or a low hanging leg raise or leg raise. It should be more of a movement that triggers the transverse abdominis, the natural weight belt of the core, the inner abdominal muscles. So this should be more of a transverse abdominis TVA activation rather than a crunch or a standard ab movement. Then we move on. This is where the body is ready to move. Now we move the body, with the flow. Flow can be developed using many different primary movements, many different movements that can be sequenced in a manner where one movement can be broken down into many movements. So one full movement is the flow, which is broken down into multiple simple movements like the push-up, the strider or mountain climbers, groiners, then squat to stand. There's so many. So I'm gonna put some links below for the flow type, the animal flow type of movements. But you can definitely search yourself how to prepare a flow for yourself. You can do your own. You can push up plus, then get into inchworm, get into a squat. That way you can do anything. So flow will again give you activation and stretch both, so that now you can load the body and you're really pumped and you're breaking a sweat. And finally, if you're still sleepy, this movement activation of the central nervous system will help you wake up, right? So CNS we've talked about earlier as well. I'm going to put a link down below as well for my CNS article and with the Instagram post. CNS is where explosive movements, low volume, low reps, less number of sets, but very explosive. You have to give it your all, but they're not so taxing that you're gonna fatigue yourself. So no fatiguing, but low volume and high on explosiveness, like very explosive. So this is the sequence where 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and you're ready, you're prepared to load the body and really develop muscle, develop strength, develop power. So a short example of an SMR or self myofascial release would be medicine ball roll or foam rolling. You can foam roll, tennis ball roll, anything. Stretch, everyone knows different kinds of stretches for different kinds of muscles, different movements want things to be stretched. For example, if your squat is not deep, then you have to stretch your ankles, you have to stretch your hips, hip flexors, even the thoracic spine, the upper back. Then we have activation, again as I mentioned, the sleepy muscles. Let's say if it's a upper body day, your upper back, your core, your hips need to be strengthened for both upper and lower body days. Core, low stress, low impact exercise that gives you a bang for your buck. Plank, Swiss ball plank, even something like a band, ball of press or a hold, or bird dogs. Flow, you can create your own flows. I'm going to post some links below, you can refer to that. And then you have the central nervous system, medicine ball throws, explosive push-ups, even Olympic lifts can help. Should be low impact, can use a medium around 40%, 50% weight for, this is just activation, it's not doing much for your power gains, it's just activating the central nervous system. Okay, so it will help you get explosive, but this should not be the primary goal. It should prepare you for what you're training for, right? So these are all the sequence of the warm-ups. Now gradually, if this is done each for like 2 minutes each, then you can have like 12 minutes But gradually, what will happen is those tight muscles, let's say hip flexors or hips, slowly they once rolled again and again and again for a certain period of time, they'll get supple. Okay, so you don't need the SMR then. You directly jump into the stretch. Or sometimes you only need SMR, you jump into the activation. So that way your body will tell you when things are needed and when things are not needed. Okay, so if you've had a, let's say, a long drive previous day and you're feeling tight, so you may need all. You may need the SMR, you may need the stretch, you may need the activation. But if you've had, if you've been moving really well the entire day, the previous day or the previous week, then you may not need it. Okay, so that way, listen to your body and then make decisions. But for anyone who is doing it for the first time, do it as a sequence, and gradually you'll get to know which ones are to be improvised upon. Then 1 minute, 2 minutes go down to one goes down to 30 seconds, and it goes off. So core, so some components are really required. Core is required, flow is required, and central nervous system is really required to get moving. Wake up and get moving. So guys, thanks for listening, and if you have any questions, please reach out. I'm happy to help.